Yesterday hurt. Yesterday hurt a lot.
Get it, Red!
Pat's right back is. Oh my fucking god! Welcome back. Another week, another main stand episode. We've got Pat, we've got Josh, we've got me, Mitch, myself and I, Mitch. We're back, boys. We have some huge news for the state of Maine and the footy fans here. The three of us were, what you doing, Pat?
Trying to point at the scarf, but I'm really bad at the mirroring thing.
You're
so
really
keep
bad
talking.
at it. Let me get that on camera real quick. Maine is a soccer city. Portland officially getting the nod as an expansion franchise in the USL 1 league. It is so exciting having a professional soccer team coming to our state. Boys, how are we feeling about this?
Lit. I'm super excited for the whole thing. I think it's big for the state. I think it's big for the sport. We always talk about really wanting to be a part of the growth of football in the States and in Maine. And now that we have the opportunity to officially support local, I think it's really cool. Big shout outs to USL to Portland and Gabe Johnson. That definitely wouldn't have happened without them. So, and I mean everybody too, all the guys that do like the Deergo Union and everything there. A great community that we've got in Maine and in Portland in particular to bring the sport here. And I think they did a really good job getting it here. So it's, it's lit. We're getting the team in 2025.
It's going to be a good time. And like Pat said, you kind of have to give your hat or take your hat off for all the people who put it together. Long time in the making. I'm not sure everyone realizes the difficulties of bringing a new team and a new sport to Maine, especially when there's not a ton of space for stuff like a new stadium in Portland for those of our listeners who haven't been here before. So a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of red tape. They navigated that pretty fantastically, I'd say, and we've known about this for a long time. I think I wrote about it first 3-4 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
And this is something we knew was kind of coming down the pipeline. Really special to kind of watch it come to fruition, especially with, that little sizzle reel that came out, some sneak peeks at, potential jerseys and stuff like that. And obviously the branding, that kind of came out a little bit, I guess, on the night of the announcement. So great to see everyone there. Good crowd at the event. A lot of cool people to kind of talk to. A lot of different aspects of this team in terms of the support that it's going to garner around the city with all the different groups, and that was kind of the first night we actually got to experience it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I think something we're definitely going to highlight between now and 2025 as we look ahead to USL football in Portland. Would love to get folks on to chat, really grow the community around this team and support local football. We're really excited about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll have more content coming on that soon, I think, probably rather than later. So keep your eye out for that. But
as it comes, yeah.
We'll switch gears from the local stuff and get into today's kind of centralized topic. Obviously, the international break. Half the countries in the world are just playing glorified friendlies, so not much to talk about even from that point of view. So we're going to kind of retroactively go back to the transfer deadline and talk about some of the biggest moves, obviously Premier League related. So why don't we kick it off? I know we have some sort of hard format to this today, guys, and I think we're going to review the three best Premier League teams in the window and three worst, obviously all from our own opinions. So
yeah, just looking at the note sheet, we're going to definitely have some discourse, I think. But yeah, I think before we get into that, just kind of talking about the window as a whole, the big moves, the what if kind of thing. I mean, the Saudi window closed on Thursday, and I was bantering you guys a lot in the group chat about, oh, Mo Salah's leaving, see you guys later, season's over for you, and he ends up staying. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think good, bad, and different? I mean, obviously you feel great about it, but do you think it's on the horizon? Do you think that's where he goes after Liverpool? And do you think it was the right decision not to sell him for a truckload and a little extra of money?
Yeah, right thing in the moment. Just because there's no time for a replacement. I think the only person maybe right now who you could replace Mo Salah with technically is Kylian Mbappe. Maybe Vinicius Jr. too, but both of those guys you're never going to get. So I think even with 200 million late in the window, it kind of tanks your season to some point. I think if you really want to go for like the title this year, I think you need a world-class player like Salah to score some big goals, and you just don't do that without buying another guy, even with the depth Liverpool has. With that being said, I think with the planning and everything, I think you could expect to sell him next year. David Ornstein reported that there wasn't any bad ties at the end of the window that because we didn't sell. So I think gates are going to be left open for a potential move, and I think it's lucrative to Salah for reasons beyond wealth. I think going back to the Middle East to play is huge for him. I think those fans would genuinely worship him as a footballer and person of interest, in the country. So a lot of different reasons he would want to go play there, but he has we talked about this in the group chat, he has a lot of years of fitness in him, and he has plenty of time for that move. So happy we kept him. I think he'll go probably next summer when we have time to maybe plan for a replacement.
And just kind of touching on that, leading up to it with the various incremental bids that we received for him, we were spitting it off back and forth with what is a dollar figure you'd take for Mo Salah to watch him go now. And if it starts climbing to 250, 300, Josh, do you let him go for 300 million this window and let Doak take over at our right wing? At the end of the day, $300 million in our transfer budget and getting injected back into the club could really set us up for success moving forward, especially after a tumultuous year last year. I don't know. I enjoy having Mo around. Like Pat said, it's years of fitness. He's not an injury prone player. He's one of the fittest footballers in the world. Dude's healthy as an ox, just an absolute workhorse. And I'm excited to cherish him for as long as he wants to stay in Merseyside.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. We'll see what happens in the coming years, I would say, but nothing to report on this deadline. Did you guys have a transfer outside of the Premier League you wanted to touch on? Something you thought was interesting, one you want to kind of look at outside of England?
I mean, I think a lot of the Saudi Arabia transfers are just kind of interesting to look at. I mean, there's some that feel more expected or normal than others. Like Neymar going to Saudi kind of felt like a no-brainer. I mean, I was surprised to see some guys like Milinkovic-Savic go.
Ruben Neves.
Neves was one that kind of surprised me. The Spanish kid from Betis,
Vieira,
that was linked with everyone, and then
Viega. Sorry,
Gabby Vega, yeah, that was linked with everybody that just went to Saudi Arabia at 22 years old. That's crazy to me, but I mean, get the bread, dog. We talked about it on an earlier episode. Never gonna fault him for doing it, but it's just wild that it happened, I guess. But I mean, outside of that, obviously, the blockbuster transfer for me of the summer was Jude Bellingham to Real Madrid. I think that was just everybody wanted him, and if he was coming to the Prem, there were only 2 or 3 guys that were going to get him. But I think we talked about this too, maybe on a different episode, but he always felt Madrid bound at the end of the day. It's paid off too at the start of the season. He started really, really well with Madrid. He's kind of been the man for the occasion for them. So that's for me, the transfer of the summer that we kind of forgot about because it happened so early. But Bellingham was definitely a huge move this summer, and I'm looking forward to seeing how his full season plays out with Madrid.
I think my biggest kind of one to watch, and I think a lot of people are probably following Harry Kane over at Bayern.
It's a good shout too.
It's something we've talked about for what 3 or 4 years now. Like it's kind of been a talking point that Harry Kane's looking for a move out, and it's generally been laterally inside the Premier League. So to see him kind of jump out of the Tottenham side to Bayern Munich so quickly at the beginning of the window was quite a big one for me.
Yeah, the one that I'm kind of not probably near the biggest end of the spectrum, but one I want to keep my eye on, Randall Kolo Muani to PSG.
Yep.
From Frankfurt. He kind of forced that move out, but I think that's kind of like the succession for Mbappe leaving probably. I've talked about him for a while now. Really talented goal scorer. Did really well at the World Cup last winter, so I think that's one to probably keep your eye on in France for this year.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, and I think this feels like a great transition into, the rest of the transfers that happened. So this next little segment we're going to do is going to be the winners and losers of the Premier League transfer window. So, we did 3 and 3. And obviously I think we all have a couple of honorable mentions and things like that too, but we did 3 and 3, the 3 best and the 3 worst. We'll start with the best, who had the best. We'll name all 3 of ours all at once, see where the overlap is with some stuff and have some general conversation about it. So my 3, kind of in order, is I think Brighton had the best transfer window by far out of any team in the Premier League. A team that I pegged for relegation in our first episode, and then they spent money. West Ham, I actually think they had an unbelievable transfer window. I think they spent the Declan Rice money really well. And then Nottingham Forest too. I think Forest had a really, really good window, and it's showing in these early stages of the season too. And then my honorable mentions are Tottenham, Arsenal, and Man City. I think if we're doing like a top 5, 2 of those 3 would sneak in there. But Brighton, every year they do this, but they replaced exactly what they needed to replace. They made 92 million euros. And then if you just look at their squad, didn't change. And it was all great business too. João Pedro has looked very good for them. Igor has looked good. And then Mohamed Dahoud and James Milner on freeze is really good business there. And then Ansu Fati at the end of the window on loan. Brighton keep doing Brighton. And then also they fleeced Chelsea for like 135 million euros this summer with Caicedo and Sanchez, selling McAllister for 42 million. I think they had a great window. I can't say enough good things about Brighton's business. I think they far and away were the winners.
Josh, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go next. My 3 were different than I think everyone's. I don't think anyone else had any of my 3. I didn't necessarily go off winners, more so just transfer windows that I really liked and appreciated. I had Man City as my first one, and not because I don't think Man City improved necessarily, but I think it's extremely difficult to replace like the level of world-class talent Man City has, and to do it so quickly. And they did it with 4, really, really great players, and Mateus Nunes, Jeremy Doku, Gvardiol, and Mateo Kovacic. Some of which have already just kind of put themselves in this City team, which, again, I think people are underestimating how difficult that is to do. And to just replace, because they did have some departures, but to replace like that level of talent, again, so quickly, so shrewdly, has to be looked at as impressive in my book, even if you're not necessarily stronger in terms of maybe talent or depth. I like the signing of Doku too, just because I think he adds a different element, which, Pat, you've mentioned a bunch. Villa was my second team. I really like Villa's had a little bit of a rocky start, but I love Diaby. He's created havoc in the games he's played in so far. A lot of pace. He was a guy that was linked to Arsenal and big clubs just a couple years ago too, so it's not like he's some mediocre signing. And then you have guys like Pau Torres add some depth in their defense, which is huge with Tyrone Mings' injury. And Nicolas Zaniolo, huge transfer from Roma. I think he's going to be class.
Tielemans too. I think Tielemans is a good signing for them as well.
Tielemans is a great rotation player, I think, at this point in his career. So another solid signing. Again, Villa's had a rocky start. They've played some tough teams though, so I think we'll get past it. And then I have Liverpool as my third. Maybe this is controversial. I think in terms of the midfield rebuild that we were sold on by ownership, Klopp, and everything, I think it lived up to that pretty well. You signed, a club and country captain in Endo, which is your most kind of probably low-level signing, and then 3 really, really quality young players in Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai. From what I've seen so far this year, I mean, Szoboszlai and McAllister look like proper players, so that's kind of influencing this decision a little bit. I also just like the prices Liverpool paid for some of these guys, especially considering their youth. So those were my factors into the decisions. I think the honorable mentions here can get really long. There's probably 7 or 8 teams that could have been in our top 3, just about kind of the arguments you make for why you like them. So I know you guys didn't have any of mine, but I think yours are all good shouts as well.
Absolutely, and I'll move right into mine. I did match Pat with Brighton up top. Don't really need to beat a dead horse. They did great business this summer. In second, I did take Newcastle. I think what they did with some of their departures, I think they got a little more money than they should have probably for St. Maximin. They put it to use, got Tonali. Harvey Barnes as well has looked good. I think they've plugged a lot of holes, and then Tino Livramento kind of up and coming right back in the system. I think they did really, really good business for what they spent. And then I did have Tottenham in my top 3. I think bringing in players like James Maddison, Mickey Van de Ven, Pedro Porro, locking down Kulusevski has been immense for them, and then kind of cutting that final string from the old ways and getting rid of Kane. I think the team looks a lot different. They look hungry, and I think it's a shot in the right direction for Tottenham. And then my honorable mentions: Liverpool, West Ham, and Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth kind of had a quiet window up until bringing in the likes of Tyler Adams. They brought in Fave. They brought in Ahmed Traore. There was a bunch of good signings that Bournemouth made toward the end of the window that I think will move them and solidify them as a team up in the Premier League this year. I think the money splashed goes a little bit further than some of the teams at the bottom like Luton or who am I thinking of? Burnley.
Yeah.
I do agree. I do think Bournemouth had a really good window, but I am also just going to come out and say it. I don't know what you guys see in Liverpool's window. I thought you had a fine window, but I don't think you addressed some of the problems that were in the squad. I still don't think your midfield depth is that great. You're one injury in defensive midfield away from not really having a DM still, and I'm still not sold on your center backs. I think you had an okay window. I think you did a good enough job.
We're a left center back away from a 10 out of 10 window, in my opinion.
I would agree with Josh, and I think
how can you say you're a signing away from a 10 out of 10 window when you missed both of your big DM targets and had to spend 20 million euros on a 30-year-old?
Those aren't DM targets. Those were players that were available at a certain price that came in. It's like if Jude Bellingham was available at 100 million, you put a bid in. It's not necessarily like we missed out on a target. We put a bid in for a guy who was available.
You missed out on 2 players.
Yeah, and we got Szoboszlai, who's the best midfielder in the world. And we got McAllister for 40 million.
You spent 20 million on a 30-year-old because you couldn't get a DM.
He's a club and country captain who played in the Bundesliga for 8 years.
He's 30. He's fine. He's a good player. It's not a 10 out of 10 window if you signed a center back. Come on.
Szoboszlai is going to be one of the best midfielders in the Prem this year. And we signed a guy who won the World Cup with Argentina.
I'm not saying you had a bad window. I'm saying it wasn't as good as you're making it out to be. You had a fine window.
Yeah, we're like a 8 out of 10. If a left-sided center back makes it 10.
I think the signing of
run through our midfield depth chart, Pat. There's plenty of midfield depth when you add 4 guys.
It's all young and inexperienced. There's no Premier League. There's little Premier League quality there. There's just McAllister. The rest of it we have. Szoboszlai has been a good signing, but outside of that, it's like
you're adding to a midfield that's had a ton of injuries, though. You have Thiago, Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Stefan Bajanic. So you have a midfield reliable. That's insane that you can't see how we rate that.
I think it's a good. It's fine. I think it's fine. I don't think it's an 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10 window at all.
So let me interject. I put it as an honorable mention for the reasons that I don't think it's an honorable mention if we beat Chelsea to Caicedo or Lavia. I don't think it's an honorable mention if we don't win Gravenberch on deadline day. I honestly think the business we did with what we had and not overspending on players that clearly haven't shown up yet is great. It has panned out in our favor. We've gotten so much younger. We've cut the dead weight of Fabinho, who really started tailing off about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Hendo was aging, and it was our club captain for, I think, like 2 seasons too long. I think we earned a lot of money and put it to good use with the people we've brought in, and it set a foundation for moving forward. It's not like we are City at the top as treble winners needing to replace world-class talent. We needed to take a step back and shift our mentality after an abysmal year, and I think what we did this window proves that we're working in the right direction. We didn't lay down. We went out and got who we needed to fill the roles we needed for the time being. And like, people forget about Sepp Vandenberg. He's been out on loan for 3 fucking years. Like, we have depth. It's just getting developed. We're not in a position like City, and I think it's asinine to say that we are.
I've never once compared you to City.
No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the Liverpool City are the top dogs conversation. Now our Arsenal's getting up in the conversation. You know what I mean? We're still thinking of 2 years ago. We're still thinking of 3 years ago. This is now. And what we did now in this summer transfer window, I think, was an honorable effort at getting Liverpool in the right direction.
Let's also add that Ryan
transfer window.
Ryan Gravenberch is just a big question mark. That could be a huge frugal signing if he turns good. Because I think people would have paid more than $20 million for it, or more than $30 million for him maybe a couple years ago, last year, when he had that good run of form. So there's a lot of question marks. We got some good guys at good prices. That's why I like it.
All the question marks that you admitted there are is why I think it's just a fine window at the end of the day. I could be proven very wrong. We could come back to this episode at the end of the year and you could be like, Pat, you're an idiot. Yeah, but it's just, it's all subjective.
I have no more question marks besides the left-sided center back.
You literally just said Gravenberch is a never mind. We're talking about the worst.
He's not a weakness. That's an addition.
You literally just said he's a question mark. He's unproven. We don't know if he's good or not.
He hasn't played yet. We'll see.
That's not a question mark to your team.
It is if he stinks. We don't know. We're moving on. I'm done having this.
I need another drink, so let me grab one of those real quick.
Worst windows. Let's have a conversation about the worst windows. And again, looking at the notes, we're gonna have some disagreement here in a second. You guys can go first.
I'll start it off. We'll go in reverse order. Give these two boys a break. They did a lot of yelling there.
We're about to do some more.
Jesus Christ. My top 3 worst windows: Wolves, Burnley, and Chelsea. Wolves, I think, lost a lot and didn't do anything to bolster their side. Just off the top, we've lost Mateus Nunes to City, Ruben Neves, Connor Cody, Raul Jimenez. They lost a huge chunk of their core Portuguese lads, and didn't really bring in anything. Boubacar Traore really is the notable signing, and Mateus Cunha. I just don't think it's enough to fill the holes that were left. There's a lot of question marks for Wolves. Burnley, I kind of touched on it last, but they are at the bottom of the table right now and did not do anything to fill out their squad. And then Chelsea. I just think it's a lot of overspending, a lot of long contracts, and a lot of question marks. I don't think the signings that they've made in the last couple of seasons, including this summer window, are anything to be scared of personally. It's just a lot of spending, a lot of in and out, revolving door, typical Chelsea stuff, finding what works, and clearly this isn't it at this point.
Do you want me to go, Pat?
I don't think Chelsea had a bad window. I think they're a bad team, and I think it's very different. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay, I mean,
Okay, spending 200 million on two players that aren't doing
yeah.
shit for the club is
Thank you, Mitch.
not good.
You tried to buy both of them. Your
did.
club wanted both
They
of
would
them.
have.
They're just
They
a
would have
bad
played.
club.
They would
They're
have
just
played.
bad.
They would have
They're
played.
just stinky. They're poorly run, and I agree. But that is not a bad transfer window. They're just a bad team.
It's a
I
bad
think it's a
transfer
bad
window
window.
that there's no strategy behind it. I think
It's just throw
strategically
cash
it's a bad
at the fire. They're just
Yes.
throwing money at the flames, and that's all I'm saying with why I think it's a bad window. Do I think they're making the wrong transfer decisions? No, they obviously need to fill every position on the pitch when everybody leaves at the end of a year. But I just don't think it's the right moves. It's like we're not looking at anything tactical. We're not looking at anything for the future. There's just signing players for a couple of years to.
There's a lot for the future because they're all on like 45-year contracts.
Allegedly.
I had
I don't think they had a bad window.
I had Chelsea up there as my worst because of the strategic part. I just think it's so stupid to just throw money at a wall, and I think a lot in terms of value, and I think they just overspent in so many areas. And if Liverpool would have bought either of those guys, I'd say the same thing. I think Romeo Lavia for 50 million is expensive for the player he is and the amount of games he's played. That doesn't mean I still wouldn't have wanted him necessarily, but we're ranking for the sake of ranking. Chelsea overspent on nearly almost every single signing. The whole team overturned, and it just felt like there was no clear strategy from beginning to end with them. And then I had Wolves and Everton, which, like Mitch said, are pretty straightforward, I think. I think Beto might be the only notable signing from both of those teams. So, yeah, that kind of says it all.
Hey, Dan Juma on a free.
47 million on Cole Palmer, didn't they? That is really funny. I looked at this differently. I looked at teams that did they get what they actually needed. Everton, I think, had one of the worst windows. My worst three are not in order, but I think Everton had one of the worst windows, and Wolves. I agree with both of you guys there. And also Luton. I think it's partially because they don't really have the money, but Luton didn't bring in any Premier League quality, and the only goal Luton should have is staying up. And I think they signed 2 Premier League quality players. The rest is like cherry picking guys from the Championship and lower, and I just don't think that's going to cut it. Another reason why I'm pretty confident they're going to get relegated. Yeah, I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think Luton probably had the worst window. I think that they had a really bad window.
Ross Barkley, baby.
Yeah, but that's like the
No,
one.
that was sarcastic. That was sarcastic.
I mean, yeah, but at least he's played in the Prem. You know what I mean? A lot of these guys they brought in, they cherry picked from. Yeah, I mean, they brought in Ryan Giles
Chong
from Wolves. Tahith Chong has played like 4 minutes for Man United. I don't think that's a good signing. I think he's going to be fine. But I mean, a lot of Barnsley, Stoke, Blackburn, Nakamba from Villa. It's like a little experience.
Yeah.
And the rest of these guys they're just not Premier League quality. And at the end of the day, when you're a team that just like your goal is stay up, you can't be signing guys from fucking Barnsley. Like that's not going to do it.
Yeah, tough to make signings when half of your staff is improving the stadium so you can have home games.
I agree, and it's tough on them too. I mean, it's harsh to say they had the worst window, but I still think they had the worst window when so much did have to go into the stadium to be able to play in the Prem. But I'm not sold on them at all, and I don't think they did themselves any favors. They didn't even make any money either, and they lost money.
Yeah, there was definitely some teams near the bottom that didn't have great windows. There probably was some other ones we didn't mention. We just kind of had general consensus on Everton and Wolves.
Yeah.
We feeling okay, boys? We feeling okay?
And I've never felt better.
Hey, I mean,
Now that we got that all out?
hashtag debate.
Embrace debate.
Embrace debate. You got to embrace debate sometimes. Hey,
Except for
it's good.
Josh. Josh just deletes the Instagram comments. He doesn't embrace debate at all.
False.
When
Take
they
that
go
up.
low, you go lower, Josh. You know what I'm talking about, and just do it next time.
Okay,
I
boys.
think that's the episode, though, fellas.
That's
Did
it.
we
That was
freeze?
talking soccer.
Yeah, that's the transfer window. Interesting transfer segment. That's for sure. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back next week with some more stuff to say.
Embrace debate. The Premier League will be back next weekend.
True.
Which is huge.
That's a positive. We're gonna need that. It's been a long couple of weeks.
Okay. Signing off. I'd say like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube page, Spotify as
Do the
well.
thing. Let us know your top three and bottom three of the transfer window. Embrace debate. We'll see you in the comments section.